My name is Sheena Allen. Today we're here to talk about my journey in entrepreneurship, starting my first company, which was Sheena Allen Apps, all the way now to my second company, which is a fintech mobile bank called CapWay. I'm from Terry, Mississippi. It's a little small country town in central Mississippi, but it's a banking desert, which means that there's not any banks available. I grew up in a town where there was a small local bank, but most people relied on like alternative financial services. That's payday lending, that's check cashing their checks at the convenience store, making sure they have money in their pocket, keeping money in their house versus bank. Because I grew up around that world, that's really all I knew until I left Mississippi. After starting my first company, moved to San Jose, which is in the heart of Silicon Valley, but eventually built my company out in Austin. Going between those two cities, there was a bank on every corner. It was different from growing up where there was like no banks to growing up there's a bank on every corner. Two things that stood out for me when I was visiting back home was, one, that we were moving to a cashless economy, which meant you walk into a restaurant, there might be a sign that says, "We don't accept cash," or "Debit and credit cards only." Or it was also the fact that we were moving to more of a social age. Regardless of where you were from, social media has shown you the world. I knew that the next generation wanted to be able to do Spotify, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and you need a bank account, you need some type of plastics to be able to do those things. And there was a huge gap that I just wanted to be able to fill. The fact that people have not been given the same access and opportunity to me was just ridiculous. There should be no reason that someone who has $10 in their account should be charged money for not having enough money in their account. Like that, to me, that makes absolutely no sense. In the news now where you see a black man that has walked into a bank and called the cops on him because they think he's cashing a check that's not his. I think our financial system is so old. I think it's not inclusive to everybody. I want to challenge what we've considered normal for so long. For a long time, we've seen the very archaic ways that banking or finance have been done, which is, the stock market used to have like the stockbrokers. With banking, you used to have your like brick and mortar traditional banks, but now fintech is becoming very digital. Millennials are actually coined the unbanked generation. Not actually because all of us are unbanked, it's because we're the generation that made that transition from banking at the traditional brick and mortar to banking and doing money on our phone. And then Gen Z, who comes after us, they kind of was born into a digital age, so they only know their phone, they only know digital. The next generation is going to just handle their money way different from what we've seen, our parents and our grandparents. Probably the biggest impact that we've seen so far has just been people of all ages, all colors, really just saying, hey, I'm so happy to see a platform, I'm so happy to see a banking option that's just way different from what I've seen. For a long time, people have been looking for something that's different. Not only as a team, not only as a platform, as a founder, as a leader, I'm able to represent something that's different. Long term for CapWay, the impact I want to make, I want to actually change the numbers. We've seen so many companies, whether it's credit unions, whether it's other fintechs, whether it's other neobanks, who will say, hey, we're servicing the underserved market, hey, we're talking about unbanked, underbanked, hey, we're creating fair opportunities and access. But if you look at the numbers, they really haven't shifted. You still have the same number of unbanked people, you have the same number of people who are unbanked or underbanked. With CapWay, when I look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I want to say, hey, we actually had an impact and we changed what those numbers look like. My biggest inspiration as a person, as an entrepreneur, is my granny. My granny passed away when she was 92. And I remember just growing up and just like hear her tell the stories of what it was like, for her growing up. And of course, when she was growing up, it was a lot of things as far as like slavery, KKK, being from Mississippi, how she dropped out of school in like second grade. She was making 25 cents a day. But to see what she went through and how she was the root of our family. My two biggest things is always opportunity and access. We have not all had it, especially in the Black and brown community, but we're great creators. I think history has shown that no one can deny that. From the ironing board to the red light to peanut butter, Black Wall Street. I legit want to change the world. Like, I want to do my part. And when someone looks back, whether it's on how women of color has excelled in entrepreneurship, whether it's about how banking has been done in rural areas or underserved areas, whatever I touch, however my journey goes, we pivot here and there, I want to look back and literally say, hey, that changed because of Sheena Allen.